Hello and welcome to another episode of Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. And Into the Afroverse is where we're taking Black folks into the future. Like I've said many times on this show, one of the things that I really enjoy about it is the opportunity to put a light on people that many folks may not have heard of. It's very easy to find the big names and find folks that people are already familiar with. But what I like to do is introduce people to you guys, to the listeners, that I find interesting. And today's guest, Mr. Lamard Cher-Aimé, falls into that category. While I was, searching social media, looking up things, different projects, I came across this project and I was just fascinated by the content. We're definitely going to be talking more about this project known as Captain Zero. But before we get to it, let me just give you a little bit of background on our guest. Lamar Cher-Aimé is a Haitian American artist, writer, director, and voice actor, and he's the creator of Captain Zero. Lamard was born with an intense love for animation and the arts. Lamard is also a suicide survivor and has made it their life's work to use art to empower other underrepresented and creative voices in the world of animation. Cutting Edge Animation, Lamard's production company, specializes in creating animated stories that defy viewers' expectations through forward thinking and innovative storytelling. And with that, I'd like to welcome Lamar Cher-Aimé. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh no, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Into the Afroverse.
Mhm.
So like I said, I came across your content, I came across your story, and I was just fascinated by this whole thing. And like I said, I'm gonna let you talk about it, but just the
Mm.
idea of this superhero and what he's dealing with and how that connects to the real world was just something that really struck me. And like I said, I reached out to you, and I'm so glad that you decided to join us. And when we do Into the Afroverse, I always tell our guests, start us off with your origin story, to use that comic book lingo. I always ask something, give us your origin story. What got you started and what got you to the space that you're in right now?
Man, ooh, multi-level question right there, but great question. My origin story. So I was born in Miami, Florida, to two Haitian parents. They had just my parents immigrated to this country in 1994.
Hmm.
I was born in 97 and came from very, very humble beginnings. At that time, it was just me, my sister, and for as long as I can remember, I've always just had a love of cartoons. That's really where it first started. First with your classic cartoons, your Tom and Jerry's, your Jetsons, your Top Cat,
Right.
like all of that stuff. And then it started to delve into Spider-Man the animated series, X-Men the animated series, Batman the animated series, and that's where like the bug of art animation really, really hit me. Like I started really getting into drawing when I was like 5 years old, and I had these cousins that I lived really close to, and they were like amazing artists, and they would always draw Dragon Ball Z characters. It was like our favorite show that we would like race home to see.
Right.
And they would draw all the characters, and I was just so blown away how they could draw the characters and make them look exactly how they looked like in the show. And
Right.
I was just like blown away that they could recreate the characters by themselves. And I was like, what? That's amazing. I want to be able to do that. So I got really into art, got really, really into drawing. And then from there, again, like just watching all of those television shows really, really fostered that love and appreciation for animation for me. And I think that's honestly really where it started. And then it's been off to the races ever since.
See, so this has been like your life's journey pretty much in terms of the artistic part.
Oh yeah, what's so fascinating about my journey is that it's taken so many different forms and places. I genuinely do feel like art is something that is my life's calling. There was one point in time where I was unsure if art was something I wanted to do. Because, like when you're a kid, there's always that like, oh, yeah, do what you love. We believe in your
Right.
dreams. And then you get like to teenage age and they're like, all right, let's be realistic.
Right.
Let's be practical.
Right.
So I went through that phase of being like, I don't know if I can do art, full time. I don't know if that's like a real thing I could really, really do. But there was this love, this desire for storytelling. Like I even remember all throughout middle school and all throughout high school, something I would do is every single time I would get on the bus, I would sit to like the second to the last seat on the bus, and almost 75% of the bus would crowd around me toward the back. And I would tell them a story using
Wow.
every single person that was on the bus until we got to school. And I did that every single day to the point where it became a thing. Where
That's
people, I would get on the bus and people were like, oh my God, Lamar's here. Like, yo, like we're about to get, part 4 of this story.
wow.
And I was doing that the whole time. Again, not at all connecting the dots or even making little comic books, that I would
Right.
like give to my friends, or people would ask me to make original characters for them. And I would make comic books and I would like sell them for like 50 cents or like $1 or something. And not at all realizing that all those little things I were doing, those were all the different aspects of filmmaking. I was writing, I was directing, I
Right.
was storyboarding, I was doing all of that stuff, not at all realizing that's what I was doing. And then my senior year in high school, I took a TV production class. And that is really where it kind of solidified in me of like, oh no, I think I could do this professionally. I think I really could.
That's incredible. A lot of times I find that, and I really believe this. I think we all know what we are, and
Mm,
we find out very early. And I
mm,
think what happens is life comes along and it convinces some of us that we're not that thing, and we just give it up.
yeah.
I think that there's a lot of people listening to you right now that, they may be an artist, but they're sitting behind a desk. They may be
Mm,
a chef, but they're doing some other job. We know what we
mm,
are. And
yeah.
and when you tap into that and you roll with it, you have success. And that's why you're here doing what you do now, because you listen to that voice and you never told it to be quiet. So, that is awesome. And, hats off to you. I've never heard someone say that they just had a bunch of people crowded around
Oh my gosh.
listening to a story. I thought you were gonna say like they were watching you draw or something like that. But wow, that is incredible. So the gift was there, and folks
Yeah.
recognized it. That is really cool. So fast forward. So you this artist, you have this gift, you have this dream, you have this vision. Fast forward to your project, Captain Zero. What
Mm.
happened in between to get this company, this project, this content together? How does this manifest?
So at around this time, this was like when I was 12 years old, that's when I started making animations.
Hmm.
I stopped when I was like 17. Yeah, like literally 17, right as I had finished high school.
Hmm.
But I was still had, dreams and desires to pursue art. I wanted to go to a film college. And my uncle, shout out to my uncle Philip, he was like, yo, I believe in you. I believe in this dream. I'm gonna buy you your LLC. You're
Wow.
gonna make your, company name. Tell me what your company name is. And we're gonna do it. We're gonna go through the process. We're gonna buy it. So he bought the LLC for my company, and I was like, I'm legit now. I got a company.
Right,
But at
right,
that point in
right.
time, I'm like, I don't know anything of what to do with it at all. But I knew I wanted to go to college. I knew I wanted to further my skills. So I ended up going to Full Sail University. Funny enough, it was the only college I applied for. But
Yeah.
I got accepted. I got in.
Right.
And then this was maybe 3 months into being in college. So this is like my first time being at home, first time being away from home, away from my family. And then that's when I was hit with this really, really bad wave of depression. Now, for context, before this, a year before, so I was 17 when I just started college. When I was 16 years old, that's when I had first experienced depression. And at that point in time, literally there was nobody in my family, no friends that really knew what to do. Like everyone was confused. I even remember having this conversation with my mom where she was like, I don't understand. Like you say you're sad, but I don't know what you're sad about. And even myself, I had trouble articulating what it was. I was like, I don't know what it is exactly. I just know that I don't feel good. I don't feel right. It's hard getting up in the morning. I struggle thinking about, just going through with life. And again, at that time, that was also funny enough where I was going through that contemplative phase of not really being sure of what I wanted to do. So I'm
Right.
sure some of that also, bled into why I was feeling that way. But so fast forward a year later to college, I still hadn't really dealt with any of this stuff. But now I have all these new stresses of my new environment and everything I'm trying to deal with, being an adult, being out in the world alone for the first time. And I had this super, super bad depressive episode. It was really, really, really bad. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like laying in my living room floor, my tiny little apartment, and I'm like in the fetal position, like crying on my living room floor. And I remember thinking to myself, because I've been cutting my hair for a long time, I was like, there's a stack of papers in my desk right now, but I know in my bathroom there's a razor blade. And there's like two options of two paths I could go down right now. And I remember thinking to myself, I really hate this feeling and I want it to stop. But I also know what I'm feeling right now, regardless of how intense it is, I know that it is still a temporary feeling. I had enough wherewithal to still be able to kind of be in that space.
Right.
So I was like, I don't want to make a permanent decision based on a temporary feeling. So what can I do? What can I turn to that can allow me to alleviate some of what I'm feeling? So I turned to what I've always turned to, and that was art. So I went to my table, I got out a little piece of paper, and I just started drawing. I just started drawing and writing everything that I was feeling, everything that I was going through in that moment. And initially, Captain Zero was really only supposed to be about my senior year in high school, finding out that, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and trying to navigate that, with friends and family that didn't really know or understand what that was through my experience of being like, a young Black kid and, trying to figure out what that was. But then, and this all happened in the same course of that very same night, I was like, yeah, that would be interesting, but I want to put all of the little parts of me that I love. I want to put, my love of animation in there. I want to put my love of superheroes in there. So I just
Right.
kept fine tuning the idea. And then within the hour, I had completely conceptualized Captain Zero, the world, most of the main characters, everything right there. And I was like, this is what it's going to be. The show's going to be called Captain Zero, and it's going to be about this kid
Right.
who becomes depressed, and it's going to be about their journey, about them trying to figure out what's going on with them, what they can do about it, and what it means to come out on the other side.
Wow. And I love that message, that statement that you made. What was that? Not making a permanent decision based on a temporary feeling. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, and I think so many folks need to know that and hear that because unfortunately, so many people are making the wrong choice at a bad time. So I'm so glad that
yeah,
you're able to share that, with listeners, and hopefully folks out there that they may be going through something or they know someone that's going through something can gain some inspiration from your story. Um, Captain Zero, that name is interesting because first of all,
mhm.
when people think superheroes, first of all, you think perfection.
Yeah,
The physical specimen, they have these superpowers, these abilities, and so forth. And there aren't too many superheroes. First one that came to mind was like Spider-Man, who had to pay bills. But
yeah,
outside of that, this idea that they struggle privately,
mhm.
that kind of goes against the whole idea of being a superhero. So I think that that's interesting. And the name Captain Zero, based on what you're telling me, I'm getting a certain impression about that name for a superhero. Why
Yeah.
Captain Zero? Why that title?
Oh man. So multiple things. One of my favorite shows growing up was Captain Planet.
Okay.
and I
Okay.
just love that. I just love that show.
Yeah.
Like super campy 90s show
Yes.
about
Yeah.
environmentalism, but I loved it. It
Right.
was such a really great show.
Right.
But I also again, because I grew up listening to hip hop, was a real
Mhm.
fan of like double entendres, things that
Right.
have layers and additional meanings to it. When I was coming up with what I wanted the show to mean, something that we actually explain in the series
Mhm.
is that Captain Zero is the name that's actually given to him. Originally, the name that he has that he creates for himself is Captain Hero. But
Wow.
he's so bad at what he does when he first starts
Wow.
out, people start calling him Captain Zero
Oh
to the
my
point where it
goodness.
sticks. And it's
Wow.
like, that's just what people keep referencing him as, to the point where he just goes and is like, you know what? No one seems to want to call me
Right.
Captain Hero. So I'm just gonna let it stay. I'm just gonna, go by Captain Zero. But
Wow.
it's exactly kind of juxtaposing that duality. Superheroes are supposed to be, the alter ego's better version of
Right.
themselves.
Right.
but yet and still Xerxes as a character, he's trying to use this mask, this facade that he's created to be this better version of himself, but yet and still that version of himself is still getting scrutiny. He wants to hide behind this mask, he wants to hide behind this perfectionism, but he still can't,
Wow.
so
Right.
that's also a part of it as well.
Yeah, I like I said, when I heard Captain Zero and I heard the backstory, I knew there had to be more to the name. I
Mm-hmm.
knew it wasn't that just random. So that really kind of brings it all together and encapsulates what the character is about. So before we go any further, how can folks find you? How can they support you in what you're doing?
I am super, super active on Twitter. And yes, I still call it Twitter.
Yes.
You can find me at Lamard Cher-Aimé. That is LAMARDCHERAIME on Twitter and honestly on all social media platforms at that exact same handle. And if you follow me on that page, you'll be able to see all the other Captain Zero stuff. But if you want to follow the Captain Zero page specifically, just type in Captain Zero TAS. That stands for the animated series. So Captain Zero TAS on all social media platforms.
Excellent. And if you're just joining us, this is Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. We're taking Black folks into the future. And today we're joined by Lamar Cher-Aimé, and we're talking about his project, Captain Zero, this fascinating project, Captain Zero, about this young superhero who is struggling with depression. What exactly would be, I guess, the diagnosis of this character?
So yeah, Xerxes definitely has major depressive disorder, but he also has complex PTSD, something that we see explored throughout the series. And then the short film that we're currently working on is that you'll see that his depression is actually a symptom of his complex PTSD, and it has to do with unresolved trauma. Things that he experienced when he was a child that he never really dealt with, and showing how what happens when we, especially as Black people, experience all of these negative things and we never take the time to deal with them or address them or call them out. you know they eventually have prolonged effects, and that's essentially what he's dealing with.
I got you. So like you said, you struggled with these things yourself. But in
Mm-hmm.
addition to like your own story, how much research went into creating this project, creating this character so that, outside of your own personal experiences, that you have something that I guess would be accurate, that folks could relate to? Was there a lot of research that went into this?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of research about mental health.
Hmm.
A lot of research just about the various other intersections of Blackness that we showcase throughout the show. We have polyethnic Black characters, we have Black trans characters in the show, we have like other, like Xerxes himself is a child of immigrants. So like something that I also wanted to have in the show, because your show is talking about Black people into the future, is to show this multiplicity in Blackness. I feel like something that we get so seldom in media is showing the full wide range of Blackness. Oftentimes Blackness is looked at and regarded as very monolithic.
Right.
So I wanted to showcase, this wide variety of Blackness in the Black experience. And obviously my experience is very, very specific. There's lots of Black experiences outside of mine. So I did a lot of research to make sure that I could accurately, talk and describe about these conversations, about these various, intersections, these live life experiences, but also some of the themes and subject matters. Like I'm super, super big on philosophy, and that's also something that I wanted to showcase, throughout the show and the series. So, I had to do lots of deep dives on existentialism and absurdism and nihilism and various other kinds of philosophies to be able to like articulate that in the show, but do it in a way that doesn't come off as like preachy, but is interesting, get people interested in philosophy in the same way I was interested in it, where I just had a question and I heard someone give a surprising answer or a very interesting example of how this could be used, and it kind of set this light bulb off in my brain, and I wanted to be able to give that same feeling to others.
Excellent. And what I like about that is, a lot of times when we have these ideas and we want to create things and so forth, I think a lot of people do forget that there's work that goes into it. You have the
Oh yeah.
talents, you have the gifts, but in order to make it believable, in order to reach a wide audience, you got to put some work in. You got to, do the
Mm-hmm.
research, hit the libraries, whatever that looks like, in order to make it that much more grounded. And I think for you to go that far into it just kind of speaks to not only your passion for the project, but also what folks can expect when they read it. So far, what has been the response in terms of from folks that hearing about what you do? how have they been responding to your work?
Oh my goodness, the response has been so overwhelmingly positive. Like I was saying to you just a few minutes earlier, like every single person, I just tell about the base concept of the show. Like I just read them the log line. I'm just like, yeah, so it's a 2D animated series about a black teenage superhero who's struggling with depression, framed through his therapy sessions. People are like, what?
Right.
Where can I watch that? Like, is it out
Right.
now? And
Right.
I'm like, we're working on it. But no, the response has been so positive, not even just from people really resonating with the show and its themes, to even getting like personal messages of people telling me how much the show has inspired them, the artwork has inspired them, how the message and the themes, resonate with them. Like we're running a Kickstarter campaign right now for our short film. And I had someone not too long ago, literally, they sent me a personal DM to tell me this, but they were like, dude, I only have $7 in my bank account right now. And I'm giving 5 to your campaign right now because
Wow.
I need to see this project. I need to
Wow.
see this thing made. And I'm like, my goodness, like
Right.
that is
Right.
wow.
That's inspiring. That's inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think we're missing, or the Black community in particular is missing when it comes to understanding, discussing, and dealing with mental health?
Man, ooh, that's a great question. Multi-layered question.
Yes.
Man, I think first and foremost, like I think media plays a very important role because so much of what we can even believe to be possible is based on what we see. It's why I think art is one of the most valuable professions we have in the world, because it is the artists that create the future that we imagine, the future that we envision. If we can't see it, then we don't know it's real or possible until someone thinks it or presents it or shows it. So first and foremost, the decision to make this whole show, or even like the short film that we're working on, framed through his therapy sessions, I thought was very important, especially him being a young Black man in therapy and being like, look at this. I'm like, every episode that you see of the show will be him in therapy recounting his
Wow.
escapades as a superhero and a student as a son. But I want to normalize this idea of this young Black man in therapy. So, first and foremost, I think we just need to get that normalized. Like, look at that. Look at this depiction. Look at this visual of seeing this young Black boy work through his trauma, be honest about what it is that he's dealing with, that he's feeling, that he's going through. First, just to normalize that visual. The second thing is to make people more aware of the signs, because I think that's something when I, was first diagnosed with major depressive disorder, that was a real barrier for people. It took a very long time for people to understand that I was depressed. Like people knew something was wrong. They were
Right.
like, yo, Lamar comes home and you're like sleeping all day and like you don't have like any enthusiasm. Like they knew something was wrong, but they didn't know what. And then the next thing after that is giving them the tools to recognize, okay, now that I know what's wrong, what do I do about it? How do I address this? How do I talk to this person? How do I show them support in a way that's not alienating to them, in a way that doesn't feel like it's putting down to them? How do I really be there for them? How do I do all of those kinds of things? So first and foremost, it's normalizing the visual. Secondly, it's being able to be aware of what it is that is specifically happening. And then the third thing is being able to address it, actually being able to do something about it, put actionable items behind, okay, how do I help a friend, a family member that is going through this?
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. And I also think that, and certainly you can speak to this as well, there's a great deal of courage that goes into seeking help and recognizing
Oh,
that
yeah.
you need help. So can you speak to, because once again, folks are listening, and I know there's some folks out here that are dealing with this, or they have family members that are dealing with this. From your personal experience and from what you know, how does one even find the courage to kind of say to someone, I need the help, and then, like you said, take action to go out and seek it, in your
Mm-hmm.
experience, your opinion?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of a two-way street. I think it is very important for people that are dealing with it themselves to be able to find a trusted loved one, a friend, a family member that they can go to and be honest about it and tell them about what they're feeling. I think that's a very important step. But I think there's also another very important step. It's a two-way street of the loved ones, us as friends, us as
Yeah.
family members, to be able to see and recognize when something is wrong. And that even if someone doesn't have the courage to say something or come up to you themselves, to be able to recognize what's going on, to be able to pull them aside and be like, hey, I've noticed this.
Right.
Is there something you need to talk to me about? Is there something you're going through? Because I want to make sure you're good. So I think it's both of those things kind of working in tandem. But I would say I specifically want to speak to, the person that's going through those things, it is very difficult. It's extremely difficult, especially when you have, voices in your head telling you that, you're worthless and your life doesn't have value. Depression will literally convince you that there is no point in seeking help. You're not worth it. But to anybody that's listening that can hear the sound of my voice and can hear this message, I just want to let you know that that is not true at all. You have value just by your virtue of existence, your life, your lived experience. You matter. Please, please, please don't think that you don't matter, that your voice doesn't matter. The world needs you. You are here for a reason. So reach out to someone, talk to someone, go to that trusted friend, go to that trusted family member, and be honest, and work through it together.
Got you. Nah, that's a great message. And believe it or not, we're coming up on the close of this episode. It went so quickly, and
It did.
there was so much that we talked about. I would love to have you come back and talk a little bit
Oh,
more.
most
Like I said,
definitely.
not only the project, but your overall message is just so important. As so many people out here are dealing with things, and of course, as the world just continues to just seemingly get crazier and crazier,
Mm,
it's got to be, I'm sure there are more and more folks out here dealing with certain things. How do they even just handle all these changes going on in the world? So I definitely want to have you come back and
I
talk about
am.
that. But one more time, how can folks find you? How can they get your content?
So I am Lamard Cher-Aimé on all social media platforms. That is LamardCheraime. And if you want to follow Captain Zero and see all of our updates relating to the short film we have coming out and the series that is going to be coming after, you can follow Captain Zero TAS on all social media platforms.
Excellent. Yeah, so I definitely want to talk about the series. We talked a little bit about the comic, but I want to talk about that transition into bring to the big screen, small screen. What we doing is what's the end goal?
Yeah, so right now we're working on putting together a short film, and
Okay.
we're gonna do a film festival run for that. And yeah, that was really meant to be the launch pad for the series. Ever since its inception, Captain Zero has always meant to be a television series. So that is the goal. 5 seasons in a movie is what I always tell my friends and all my producing
All right.
partners. I'm like 5 seasons in a movie, but a television show, that is the aim for Captain Zero.
Excellent. So that'll about do it for this episode of Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. And remember, Into the Afroverse is we're taking Black folks into the future. So one more time, special thank you to Lamar Cher-Aimé. And like I said, I'm so excited for this project and just reading and hearing about it that I just wanted to share this story with you guys. And I really hope that you guys took his message to heart, talking about the struggles. And like I said, we're going to get more into it next episode. So please tune in and hear part two of this conversation. And remember, you can hear past episodes on YouTube page for Into the Afroverse. And also, folks are always asking, how can they support our show? Remember, you can go to the website, you can donate, you can contribute to keep this show on air. So with that, I'm William Jones. And one more time, thank you to Lamar Cher-Aimé. And that's Into the Afroverse. Have a good day, folks. Take care of yourselves.